right, folks. I just want to thank you for coming on down to Guitar Center, and you're really in store for a definite treat tonight. It's going to be a lot of fun. Definite treat. Death treat, exactly. Well, consider it on that one. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up Gus. I'm going to let Gus do a little bit of an MC. He's taking lessons from Sean, and he knows Sean a lot better than I do, so we'll have him bring him on up. So let's hear it for Gus.
Woo! All right, I put this clinic together because I take lessons with this man, and he's a phenomenal drummer. And I figured since he lives all the way in Kendall, most of y'all don't get to drive down there and check the man out. So
what has he done?
He's played for the Death Human album. He released his own album with Cynic. And just recently he played with Sean Malone, a Cynic, on a Sean Malone CD called Courtland. And he'll be playing some of those tunes here tonight. And just show you how he approaches, how he plays, some other stuff, and then he'll take questions at the end. So give it up for my man Sean.
first song that I was going to play. These songs are from Sean Malone's solo CD, debut CD, titled Toward Land. Most of the songs are in this kind of style.
Is that out yet?
Huh? Yeah, it is, actually. I brought a CD, so if you guys after the clinic want to look at it, so you know what it looks like when you go into a record store. Oh, I brought it. This is another song. This one's called Fisher's Gambit. I hope. Thank you very much.
Hello. Thank you very much. I guess I will have to use this. I didn't think I'd have to use the mic. I didn't think anybody was going to be here, but you guys showed up. Thank you for coming. Some of you know me. I know a lot of you. Familiar faces. Some of you don't know me. For the people who do know me, you probably know me from Death or Cynic, which is far more drastic music than what I just played. This is kind of the realm in which I'm playing lately. My playing has kind of undergone various metamorphoses over the past year or two, or actually the past years, and my setup is the thing that has changed so drastically. My first band, Cynic, I actually was playing a double bass kit with 4 rack toms and 2 floor toms. Okay, so this is, we're getting back to basics here. I wanted to start out the clinic talking about general things, general concepts, not necessarily getting down on the drum set and playing examples for you guys, because in a lot of the drum clinics I've attended, there is a lot of information that is either not useful or is useful for some, but useful for, you know, not useful for another person. So I was trying to think of what I could come up with that everybody could get something from. And I came up with a few ideas. So I'd like to start out with just talking about the setup. And one of the things I do or think about when I'm setting up my drums, or have learned through the many metamorphoses, like I said, my drums have gone through, is economy of motion. Putting your drums where you can reach them, your cymbals where you can reach them. One of the reasons I went from a double bass kit to a single bass kit was because my hi-hat was so far away that I was like this, you know? So when you're setting up a drum set, look to, you know, be practical about it. You know, it's a very physical instrument. You want to use as least amount of motion as possible, which is something feel free to ask any questions at any time. If anybody has any questions whatsoever, interrupt me. It's your clinic. It's not mine. So, setting up the drum set, keep it simple. You know, the least amount of space from drum to drum is the best, but you don't want your drums hitting each other, and you don't want your cymbals hitting your drums. And when you're going into a studio and doing a studio session, you're going to have other considerations, such as mic placement, which might change your drums. So if you're going to be doing a session or doing any kind of music that's going to involve recording or miking, you should take that into consideration, because otherwise you're going to go into the studio and you're going to have to change your setup, and you're going to be like, uh-oh, now I got to record, and it's, you know, different, and it's happened to me. But I've kind of have them at a comfortable level now. I want to talk about approach, the drummer's approach to music, because it varies from situation to situation. Like in rock music, the bass drum and the kick drum generally generate the pulse, and the ride cymbal and the toms kind of float around that. And with like jazz music, you have the ride cymbal and the hi-hat generating the pulse, and the toms and the bass drum kind of decorate, and the snare drum decorate that. And when you're approaching a musical situation, you need to ask yourself some questions. You know, what is my function as a drummer? Okay, obviously it's to keep time. That's what a drummer does. But it's much more than that. The music may call for improvisation or chops, or it may not. You may just be a drum machine. You always want to try to make music, though. You're a musician. You don't want to just go off and play whatever you want to play, which can be fun at sometimes, and appropriate, and not appropriate for other times. So approach is important to the music that you're playing. My approach to the Sean Malone stuff was very open. He sent me a cassette with sequence drums on it, so I actually had a guide track to what I was doing. And he was looking for much more airy, you know, cymbals, fills, stuff with implied rhythms.
With the Cynic and the Death stuff, it's a much different thing. It's extreme double bass stuff and grinding rhythms. The Death stuff is more straightforward, but it still had some odd times and a lot of time changes and stuff. But the Cynic stuff was a little crazier, a little more time changes going on. So approaches were a little different, but it was still the same vein. You know, a lot of double bass, ride cymbals and hi-hats over the top of that stuff. So the bass drum and the kick was mainly what was generating the pulse. And with the Sean Malone stuff, it's kind of a mix between kick and snare and ride and cymbals and stuff. So you guys, to approach music, you know, think about some of those things. You know, economy of your setup, what your job is in the type of music that you're going to approach, and what your function is. And of course you want to create music because you're a musician, you're not just a drummer. So that's kind of how I approach music. I get those parameters and figure out what I have, you know, what my boundaries are and what I can do and what I can't do. Any questions whatsoever? Yes.
Your drum set, it looks a lot different than what I'm used to seeing.
Actually, this is
Placement of the toms.
the drums. Oh, the tom setup?
Yeah, the placement of the toms.
Yeah. Well, one of my favorite drummers, Gary Husband, was messing around with this stuff. He had one small tom in the center, or actually one big tom in the center, and then he had smaller toms off to the right and smaller toms off to the left, so he could roll either way, or going with the ambidextrous approach. I've kind of been studying in a book, New Breed, from Gary Chester. I don't know if any of you who are drummers know the book. The book works on independence, separating your limbs, and one of the things it stresses is right versus left. You're going to play something on the right side of the kit, it should be on the right. You're going to play something on the left, with the left hand, you shouldn't be crossing. I'm kind of in between that because I had been playing for about 10 years before I got this book, so I'm kind of dependent on my right. So, I mean, I have a ride cymbal over here. I practice with it, and I try, you know, I have a floor tom here. That's why the toms are set up that way. So I can go high to low, and then high to low the same, different way. It also comes up, you come up with cool tom combinations that you wouldn't otherwise get if they were set up the normal way. But this kit actually is a kit from the Guitar Center here, with the sizes that I use. So that's kind of where I'm coming from with the tom thing. I've been experimenting with it for a while. I did the Portal stuff for, I don't know if any of you know, it was an original band after Cynic had broken up with a few of the members that never got signed or never, you know, really saw any interest. But I was approaching it this way too, as well. Any more questions? No questions, okay. Practicing I wanted to talk about, because a lot of people juggle their practice around. They don't have a consistent practice schedule, and that's very important. As with anything, discipline is very important, and consistency. In your job, in all areas of your life, especially in music. I mean, it's kind of goes without saying. It's a dedication thing. Consistency is what's going to improve you or get you to that next level. Whether it's an original band, obsession, or a record you just want to play to, or even, you know, sitting in your room playing, you know, paradiddles or something. It's good to do it every day or a select day. Like what I've been doing lately is getting a chart, and it says weekly goals up at the top, and it says your main goal, or your you know, the large goal, and then it breaks it up into smaller goals. And it's very important to be organized when you're practicing, because otherwise, day to day, you're going to come back and you're going to, you know, jerk off and play, just whatever. It's very important to just keep a consistent thing going. So this schedule or organization, you know, tells you, okay, I practiced this for 30 minutes this day, I practiced this for, you know, 15 minutes. So you look at your whole week and make sure that you've practiced everything at least 2 or 3 times. That's kind of how I approach practicing, but it doesn't, you know, as long as you're doing an organized thing and a consistent thing, you're going to see results. Like I said, you can't just practice one thing one day and not play it for 2 weeks and expect to, you know, come back and play it, unless you're God. So it's very important to think about that. These are things to think about to approach the drums. which I didn't do until 4 or 5 years after I was really playing drums. You know, think about what I'm doing as a drummer instead of just going, oh, I want to play, I want to practice, I want to do this and that. It's very important to get your concept down. You know, what do you want to say? You're making a statement, you're playing, you're expressing yourself. Music is a language. You want to say something. You don't just want to, you know, not, you know, say anything, unless that's your intent. Sometimes it could be your intent. Hey, I don't know. So it's very important to keep a consistent thing. Whatever it is, even if it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, it'll pay off. What else? Independent, practicing. Music is a language. Music is also a business. I wanted to talk about making yourself visible, getting out there, promoting your stuff. You know, there's so many killer drummers all over the place. A lot of them just don't get heard because they don't go out, they don't play, they sit in their room and they practice, and it's a business, and you have to realize that. And as musicians, it's something that, unless it comes naturally, you don't concern yourself with. You just kind of think, hey, I think, you know, somebody's going to take care of this. I'm a great player, you know, somebody's going to get me a gig, somebody's going to hear me and push me out there. And it's very rare that somebody says, oh, you know, I want to do something for you. You got to get out there and get people to hear you, play, get your band out there, always have a tape with you, you know, promote yourself. Because otherwise you're just going to, you know, stay in your room. And that's something I realized, you know, they did the Death record and I did a tour, a US and a European tour. One of the most valuable lessons I had to learn was going on the road, seeing what's involved with, you know, tour, buses, you know, equipment, visas, you know, taking care of your body on the road, you know, doing interviews, doing videos, promotion, you know, being professional, holding yourself in a particular manner that's, you know, professional. These are all things to be considered, and a lot of musicians don't consider that, you know, and it's all part of the package. If your goal is to support yourself off of music, which is a very hard thing to do, extremely difficult to do. Yes?
Sean, later on when you get into your techniques, could you show us perhaps like your signature drum riff? Something simplistic, ranging from the beginning elementary drummer to the advanced, that we all can like break it down and
well,
something.
Most of you probably, the people who have heard the Cynic and the Death stuff probably know me just for double bass stuff. I guess that would probably be my signature, so to speak, is my feet, or my feet with what I do on top of my feet. Do a lot of, you know, I'll play, for example.
Lightning of emotions.
Double bass, right? Instead of just doing the normal generic double bass beat, I started putting a lot of the sticking rhythms that I was learning in drum lessons over the tops of things. I also developed a very strange hitch in my technique to where I lead with my left foot. I don't know how it happened. It was not intentional, but instead of going and having the left foot be on the ands or the e's and the uhs, I lead with my right. So the actual eighth note pulse of my double bass can also be kept time on the hi-hat while I'm playing both, by playing both pedals with one foot. It's a thing Dennis Chambers did, and I saw it and I was like, well, God, I play like that, you know? So I kind of ripped him off. So I started doing a lot of that, and I did that stuff on the Death records too. It's like, what are you doing? You're playing double bass and you're opening and closing your hi-hat. Things like that. Experimenting. Like sometimes when I do triplets, instead of just going, I play one on the left and two to the right. So you have the quarter note pulse there. It's like another way to fill the beat. And that's kind of one of the things I try to do, or tried to do, in the Death and the Cynic stuff. Was, okay, yeah, here's the drum beat, but I want to fill every space possible. an extra hi-hat implying the beat. It also helps secure the rhythm. And then a lot of just fills on top of it. That's kind of like my signature stuff, just real fast beat. And yes?
What was that? One with the left and two with the right?
One with the left and two with the right. I take the right. So then you can add stuff on top of it. I would just sit there and go. Practice flams, practice stickings. You come up with your own grooves. It's kind of another thing I'm really into is, okay, education is very important. To learn rhythm and what makes up rhythm, and to learn the notes and to know where they go is very important. You're a drummer. You need to know those things. You need to lock it in, you know what I mean? So I would practice these things over the double bass, always. So it did two things. It made my hands better, and it strengthened my feet, and I almost put them on autopilot. And I would just practice that in my room for forever, and then when Chuck called me to do the death record, he was just like, this is great, man. You know, you got your flying feet going, do all that crazy stuff on top. That I kind of think is my signature from what a lot of you guys know. Is you know, a lot of fast hi-hat stuff, with the Cynic stuff too. You know, a lot of open and closing.
John?
Yes.
On the Death CD, did you pretty much keep it 1-2, 1-2 the whole record, or did you do that?
Yeah. No. There's no recording where I'm doing that. Yeah, it's all left, right, or right, left, right, left. Foot to foot, hand to hand. You know, mostly. You know, I mean, lack of comprehension. There's a tune where there's a guitar solo, and the main grouping is the bass drums go from 16th notes to 16th note triplets.
Flattening of emotion.
Flattening, I think it's flattening of emotions. And so I didn't do the doubles there. It was just foot to foot. Experimenting with that. I mean, I saw Dennis Chambers just tear that up. I mean, you know, so it's definitely possible to get that super rhythm. Any more practice? Any more questions? No questions. Okay. What else do you want to talk about? Versatility. Yeah, sure.
You had when I went to the Cynic show, you had your bass drums on an elevation. What's the purpose? Just so they won't slide, or?
So they won't slide. It's also so the beater hits flat on. Oh, hits flat on the drum head. A lot of the pedals nowadays you can adjust almost everything on the drum pedals that you get. Before only a few drum pedals could you adjust the beater to the head. So by lifting the front head, the bass drum, the beater meets flush with the head instead of meeting it on the downstroke. Sometimes the beater kind of gets down. Now it hits flush. And it also, you know, stops the bass drum from scooting as well. Yeah. I first learned about that. I saw Dave Weppel play it. He was talking about that. Yeah, he was jacked up. Anything else? Questions?
You said your constant daily routine, right? Do you really write down on weekly things?
Yeah.
Can you give us an example of this week? For me, it's hard.
This week was, well, practicing new song and working on my hand technique. I'm going through stick control. I want to finish that book. There's a lot of books that a lot of these concepts are concepts that I have realized. It's not like, okay, what am I going to talk about? Let me just make some stuff up. These are things that, I mean, I've been playing drums for 15 years. And, you know, I've taken lessons from two guys for probably 6 or 7 years between the two. So there's a lot of time where I wasn't taking lessons and I was practicing on my own, and I was very scattered. Once I got the main idea of how to practice, how to read general rhythms, I was like, ooh, I like this book. Oh, this book too. Oh, this book. I wanted to practice everything, and it's like I found myself so scattered that I wasn't getting anything done. I had all these books I was like 10 pages into, and I didn't finish anything.
What's your main goal? You say you have a main goal.
Well, like a main goal would be see better independence on the jazz ride cymbal versus your bass drum and your snare drum. Like that was one of the things. Like there's a book I'm working on, which is just like hi-hat and ride rhythm. Variations on that. And then reading snare drum and bass drum, or bass drum and tom fill. Reading various different things, keeping those going. That's one thing, for instance. Like, and a main goal would be, you know, to get independence between my hi-hat and my ride cymbal so good that I really don't have to think about it and I can concentrate. And like mini goals of that would be, okay, practice the Rick Mattingly book, page 10 has a good exercise, and you know, like that. And break it up.
Do you really stick to each day? You find it hard sometimes?
Sometimes it's hard, just like anything. I mean, you're going to wake up some days and you're going to sound like crap, you're not going to feel good, you don't want to practice. And other days you're going to be totally knocking yourself out, you know, yeah, this is great. But that's part of what the consistency does, is on those days that you're not feeling so good, you're so in that routine that it's like, okay, you know, you can do it, you get it, you know, go through the muscle memory and you can rely on that. And it's important, you know, because sometimes you might have a gig on that day and you're not feeling that good, you know what I mean? You're going to be glad that you made yourself practice day in and day out.
Kind of funny that you mentioned that is the way.
It is. I mean, you have to set a goal. You have to write it down and achieve it. Otherwise, it's like, oh, I want to do that. Cool. You know what happened? You know, nothing. You want to do that? That's great. You know, how are you going to get there? How are you going to do that? For me, it was like with double bass. That was one of the things, man. I just sat there forever, just sweating. You know, trying to just get a sweat workout. You know, because when I first started playing double bass, my left foot was lopsided. I was, you know, I had a lot of power on my right, not on my left, and flammable, you know, inconsistent. And it's only through just sitting there day in and day out and getting it, just get to where it's a comfortable thing. You know? With anything, it's like a universal truth. You know, you can apply it to most anything. You know, that you want to excel in. Yes. On the road, very little practicing. It's very hard. Sticking, practicing. I brought my keyboard. It's very hard to get drum set practice on the road unless you were like super rich and can have like a room, you know, and a kit before you go and play. It's almost impossible. That's why a lot of bands do writing on the road. Just, you know, they have the guitars and the keyboards and stuff. It's very hard. It's very hard. Almost no practicing. But you have to show every night. So. Yes.
How can I start a 7-year-old start playing?
Excuse me?
7-year-old.
How would you start him off playing?
How would she start her off playing? She got the whole setup. But do I need to get books and tapes for her?
Well, it depends on what she wants to do with it. You know, it depends on how inclined she is and how serious. It's always a good idea to study it academically, look at it on paper, so you know you have an internal idea of what's going on. But I would see how she's doing rhythmically and go with what she likes to do. Because a lot of the times with a child that young, something can be very intimidating to them and turn them off and make it into a bad experience. And if you're that young, you want to turn it into a good thing, something that they like to do. So it's really, at that age, you try to get them motivated with whatever it takes. If it's a book, that's great. If it's just playing to a record or, you know, beating around, that's question. Yes. As of lately, it's only been a couple hours a day. Because,
through the span of all.
For the span, I mean, there was periods where I was getting 7, 8 hours a day of practice, which is important. I'd love to do that again. Huh? You know, that's the whole thing. What if you go to school? What if you have a job? Yeah, life kind of intrudes on that perfect practice opportunity. So that's why if you're young and you're playing drums now, you don't have to work. Practice your behinds off, because when you get older, you're not going to have that time. You're going to work all day, you're going to get home and go, oh, God, now I got to practice. But you got to do it, so, yeah.
Yeah.
How frustrating is it being a technical drummer in a non-technical music scene and trying to hook up with musicians that number one don't bore you or aren't of your caliber?
I'll put it to you this way: what I play to now is a computer. You find musicians that are into what you're doing, and it's, like I said, you have to ask yourself some questions. As a musician, do you want to support yourself? And if you're like into a lot of technical music, you're either awesome and in that circle of people that can actually survive off it, or you find some way to commercialize, or I don't want to say commercialize, but get a situation to where you can, afford to do what you like to do. It's very hard. Like with Cynic, we never made any money. We just got an opportunity to put our record out and play it for people around the world, which was great. You know what I mean? That's awesome. But it was very frustrating because we put so much energy, so much time, and so much money into it. And it's like, it's such technical and eclectic music that, you gotta, to have any commercial success, you gotta gear it towards that, make some compromises. But it can be very frustrating. And at times, like when we had the record deal, we were recording it, it was heaven because we had a record deal, we could record it. So, I mean, it's hard. You try to find people who are into the same stuff as you, You never know, you might break ground, you might form a new sound that, people can dig. It's hard. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I remember I had stopped playing for about 8 years, right? And he was having a competition over here. And when I started back, my hands were fast, but I couldn't get my feet right. And what I did, I put an ankle weight on both of my feet. And, tied up here.
Right.
I was doing this number here. And I used to get the paddle. And I used to do it for hours and hours. When the competition came, I was ready. I didn't win, but I was ready.
But you didn't feel like it was too light and it didn't affect your playing?
No,
it helped your playing?
Yeah, it helped my playing.
Because I've heard different stories,
Yeah, I put the ankle weight on it, and on the top of it.
Right.
And what I did, I just sat down and just did the double.
Right.
And it was hurting. Well, by the time when I got on my set, it was like
flying, right? Like feathers.
I was like ready. That's so hard. But I think it's an exercise for every part of the drum.
Absolutely. That's a very physical instrument. You know what I mean? There's things you can do away from the drum set that help that too. Any cardiovascular thing for sure is good. You know what I mean? It's a very physical instrument. You got to be in shape. Although I see some big guys really kick it though. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I've actually heard a friend of mine practice, forever like that, and it actually ended up affecting his playing using ankle weights. Yeah.
No, what it was, what I did too, I got a pillow. A soft pillow, and was beating the pillow too.
Oh, okay.
Just to slow it up some. And I had to play some too, because I find myself going faster than the music itself. Then I go on the beach and walk, knee high in the water, so I can strengthen up my
resistance.
Yeah, everything it came out to a point where when I played, it was hard and it was right. Some things that I couldn't do because it was getting lazy. Like if I wanted to do something, it couldn't get there. And I find myself getting there because of the exercise I was doing.
Of course, especially with double bass, you're keeping your legs up and you got to kind of put your elevation into it. It's not like the most natural thing to do. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's very physical. Any type of exercise it is geared towards that, which should help. I've only heard that one case of my friend who played a lot with ankle weights, rehearsed with his band with ankle weights. Then when he played without ankle weights, he couldn't play right. He had to play with the ankle weights.
Did he put it on his feet?
On his feet, on his ankles.
Oh no, not on my ankles. Right on the top part of my foot.
Oh, okay.
So when I do one of these numbers here.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know about the ankle.
That's what I thought you were talking about.
I have it on there, but it was throwing me off. You're right. It was throwing me off.
Because you're over stressing it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Everybody wants to hear the opening and flattening of emotions.
Opening and flattening of emotions. Does anybody even know what that is? What is that? So how does it start? Well, The time is fine. Please. So I did a right, left, right, right, left, right, right. But I doubled the right and the double the lefts each time. And I had double bass going over. The guitar riff is so it's like a triplet feel. So I put double bass over it. That's the general idea. That's kind of what I'm known for, this flying fool, but see, I don't want to be known for that. Any other question?
How do you develop time patterns?
How do I develop them? See, I've gone back and forth by trying to cerebrally approach them. Okay, I'm dealing with 7, so I have 2 groups of 2 and a group of 3, or I've done it that way, and I've just played over and over again to either the bass line or the guitar riff. And I found a combination of both. Trying to think about the time you're in, but feel where you are. And same thing with a lot of phrasings. Try to feel it. It's very hard to count it, count every little bar and every little, it's very hard. You get into the pattern of hearing certain figures and you know where they go and where they fit. And that's kind of how I approached odd time too. I try to feel it more than count it. I count it, but I'm implying it too with feel. You know what I mean? That's kind of how I approach it. And now that I have a computer, it's like I can just play it over and over again. So it's kind of like that.
Do you ever have any problems with like your legs cramping or your hands cramping? Even with a lot of practice, you still get that.
Sure, man. Yeah. Just think about it. The faster you go, the more relaxed you have to be.
Yeah.
And I see a lot of guys, it's like, they start getting tied up, they crunch up, it's like, man. I used to go with Death, it was like a marathon for an hour and a half every night. Every song was like constant. Man, I had to stretch out, warm up, I had water, fans. When I had long hair, it was tied back. It was like worked out, man. I came back from that tour, I was like pumped,
Right.
Lost weight, was in shape. So, but yeah, man, double bass is very strenuous.
Well, how about on your hands? I mean,
hands too. Yeah, definitely stretch. I do one of the stretches I do is I take the sticks and I turn them inside out. Stretch your forearms, fingers. Do some warm up things. Individual things. If you go out, you'll definitely cramp up. Yeah. Fingers will get all tight. You'll look like this elephant man trying to play the drums or something. But yeah, and it's happened, man, where I've been like, oh man, live. There's like 1,000 people there. I can barely hold on to my stick. But you gotta get through it.
Was Lack of Comprehension the only MTV aired video from that album?
Yeah.
That was like back in 90.
Actually, I never even saw it. I saw the video one time, and it's rough editing. I never saw it on TV or even had a copy of it. If anybody has a copy of that video, see me after the show, please. I will purchase it. Yes?
Yeah, the CD that you were playing to, are you guys doing any dates down here right now?
There's no scheduled dates, but we were thinking of doing some just, set up our own show kind of thing, because the guitar player who played on it lives in Boca, and I live down here, so Sean is the only guy who lives in Tampa, and he might be coming down here to do a clinic, so there's a possibility of that. The band is, Sean Malone, but I don't know how the advertising would go with that, but there is a possibility.
A Cynic clinic.
But again, no more. Okay. I talked about setup, approach, practicing, music as a language, versatility and diversity. Last thing. It's a good idea, even the most diehards of metal or diehards of jazz or diehards of anything. It's really not a good idea to just close yourself off to one type of music, no matter what you're playing. I don't care what anybody says. The more different styles of music you listen to, the better. I mean, if you could pick up a second instrument or a third instrument, that's amazing too. Education is the way. Exposing yourselves to just different things. There's so many elements of music you can take, and I stress the word music because that's what it is. You are a musician. You're not just trying to make music. So diversity is something that's, I wouldn't say is paid off for me. It's helped create a lot of avenues, being able to play different things, and still always constantly learning. You know, it never stops, no matter how awesome you are. It never stops. You know, you can always improve, and you can always better yourself. So on that note, I would like to thank everybody for showing up and supporting. If there's any other questions before I finish up, yes.
Is there going to be another Cynic album?
Highly unlikely. Cynic is deceased, yes.
What's your next project?
What's the next project? It's actually a project Sean Malone, myself, and Jason from Cynic, another guitar player from Tampa, are putting together. We just did a 3-song demo for Magna Carta, the record company that, I don't know if any of you guys, Sean Malone and I played on a Rush tribute CD. We played one tune on that, and the record company that put that out was real interested in the solo stuff we were doing. So that's looking pretty good, actually. And that'll be finished next week. I recorded drum tracks 2 weeks ago. So, and that's kind of like a King Crimson, textured kind of progressive, a lot of odd times, but pocket playing, and it's real nice. Stick, Sean Malone plays the Chapman stick on it. The guitar parts are, you know, real new. A lot of good stuff. So that's kind of where any original stuff that I'm doing.
So what's the band going to be called?
The band is called Ever, which is tentatively titled, because I think there is a band, Everclear or something. So that's, yes?
Who are some of the technical bands that you would recommend listening to for drummers?
For drummers, a lot of the technical stuff is outside of the metal realm. I listen to a lot of Vinnie Colaiuta, like anything, basically anything by Vinnie. I mean, even him with the Commodores is like, you know what I mean? Him with, there's some Live Chicoria, like any Alan Goldsworth with Vinnie Colaiuta, Gary Husband, those are some drummers I love. Tribal Tech is a band. This stuff is kind of similar. I wouldn't say it's as incredible as that, but it's kind of the vein of that. They're an incredible band, Tribal Tech. Steve Coleman, you know, some of these jazz guys that have taken a fusion or a funk side to it, just, you know, makes it real animated for the drums. I find most of it on the jazz side or the fusion side of things, except for like Watchtower, you know, some Dream Theater stuff. There's nice stuff in that, you know. Every once in a while you'll find a band like that that's got some really good stuff. So that's what. Any more? Okay, I'd like to thank Guitar Center and everybody for showing up, letting me do this clinic. I'll play one more song for you. And thank you very much. Just gotta cue this tape up here. Drum solo. play? It wasn't loud enough before? No, I wouldn't. Alright, this tune is a little funky version of Giant Steps for anybody who knows the tune. So John, the Yellows. Yeah. So check it out. This is also off Sean Malone's debut CD recording. I wanted to say one more thing before you go. Free advertising. If anybody wants to see me after for drum lessons, I will be here. I'll give you my number. Thank you very much. Good night.